Media Matters put together the year in media by the numbers, and there are some really interesting findings that highlight just how broken our mainstream media is. So let's take a look at some of their graphics here. This is the first one. For everybody listening on the live show, it says there were 975 Ebola segments that aired on evening broadcasts and cable news before the midterm elections, and then there were 49 Ebola segments that aired after the midterm election. Now, this is just absolute madness. Because remember, what's the death toll? What's the body count because of Ebola in America? What is it, one person? Two people? It's about two, right? Yeah, it's two. And you did that many segments on that issue. Now understand something. The flu, the regular flu, has killed way more people than that. And that got almost no coverage. I mean, we're talking about, there were articles today about how the flu is reaching, quote, epidemic levels right now. So I don't know how many thousands of people have died from the flu, but that gets no coverage. Meanwhile, Ebola, one or two people died from it, and it was wall-to-wall coverage and fear-mongering nonstop, which shows you one of the media biases that we often talk about, which is the bias towards sensationalism. If they could talk about something that's not true, but it's hyperbolic, and it gets your eyes on the screen, then they'll talk about it. So they don't care about truth. They don't care about objectivity. They don't care about informing people who are watching them by presenting data and information and statistics and numbers and facts. They don't care about that. They just care. The only number they care about is the ratings number. And that's not good anyway. I mean, when you look at the 24-hour cable news networks, it's pathetic. And the reason why it's pathetic is because they're chasing the ratings as opposed to caring about the quality of their work. To go somewhere to find people who care about the quality of their work, look no further than new media, because new media, I know I'm in it, we care about it. I actually care about the stuff I'm talking to you about. The people on CNN are just getting a paycheck and they're getting makeup all over their face and they sit there like mannequins and they talk about shit they have no clue what the fuck they're talking about. So let's look at the next one here, because this is telling also. This says only 3% of guests who discuss the economy were economists on evening cable and broadcast news. That says it all, doesn't it? So we have a situation where in the mainstream media, where most people go to get their information about the world, only 3% of the time when you're talking about the economy, do you have an expert on the economy? Only 3% of the time economists are there to talk about the economy. You know what that means? Who's talking about it the other 97% of the time? Morons, pundits, commentators, people who get paid to bloviate. Now, look, I understand I live in a glass house, but at least I have some expertise on this stuff. I mean, I do have a degree in political science, and I do care about this stuff deeply, and I do spend pretty much all of my waking hours reading to get the information to then share the information with you. But what we're learning is that when you look at the mainstream media, they take it not seriously at all. I mean, when you have the money and you have the resources to bring on economists to talk about the economy, and you don't, that's borderline criminal. You guys can afford whatever economists you want to bring on. You can bring on experts, but you don't bring on experts because the experts might be a little bit dry. The experts might not be able to cut to a segment about Kim Kardashian's ass in breaking news to get you more eyeballs on the screen. Or they might not be able to cut to a story about Justin Bieber, like literally happened, I think it was either this year or last year, where the MSNBC was talking to a congressperson, and they cut to a story about Justin Bieber getting arrested. They were talking about NSA spying, if I remember correctly, and then they cut to Justin Bieber. Again, that says it all. You have stuff like that happening, and you also don't have experts talking about said field. You avoid the experts. Let's look at the next one. This is a classic Fox fail. Fox News overestimated climate activists' 2014 campaign donations by 60,000%. Now, you're probably thinking, how the fuck is that possible? Well, let me explain. The climate activist Tom Steyer spent $73 million opposing the Keystone XL pipeline. And Fox said that he spent $42.9 billion opposing the pipeline. Yeah, that would be a gigantic difference. Now, to be fair to Fox News, I don't want anybody's money influencing politics in any way. I think there should be no private money in politics, whether it's George Soros or the Koch brothers or anybody else. So I'll shake on it right now. If you guys say, stop letting the big money liberal donors give money, and we'll stop letting the right-wing donors give money, I'll shake on it right now, man. You have yourself a deal. But they wouldn't actually take that deal. That's the problem. Now let's look at the next one. This is the saddest of all, speaking on the issue of money in politics. Broadcast TV networks spent less than 1 minute a month covering campaign finance reform. Think about that, man. Less than a minute a month covering campaign finance reform, when that is the number one issue affecting your life and my life. Because remember, big money, so corporations, billionaires, Wall Street, you name it, they donate to politicians and they get their way. The policies prove that they get their way. Whereas you and I, when you look at the polls, the politicians don't listen to us in a so-called democracy when they're supposed to be listening to us. That's the whole purpose of a representative democracy, is if we want something, they follow through with it. And if they don't, then we kick their punk asses out of office. But we've set up a system now where it runs on private money. It runs on the money of the elite and the establishment and the rich, so they're the only ones who get their way, and we're just totally ignored. This is why Congress's approval rating is 9%. This is why. Because we know they're not representing us. We know that there are deep systemic flaws. And instead of the media talking about the main issue which affects the American people, they avoid it like the plague. This is backwards in so many ways. But this is how you know, let me say this in closing, this is how you know that the media is not doing the job that it was intended to do. The media has been corrupted by the same system because they get the money that flows into politics. It stops with them because that money that flows into politics, those corrupt dollars, end up paying for ad campaigns for politicians. So why would the big networks be against money in politics? That's how they get their fat paychecks. So we have a media that's of the establishment, by the establishment, for the establishment, which is why they don't represent the American people. And of course, their job is to do that because they're supposed to be a watchdog of power, and they're not. They're listening to power all the time and ignoring you and I.